past few months, juries across America have delivered a clear message to Johnson & Johnson. You knew your talc-based baby powder could be contaminated with asbestos, you sold it anyway, and now you need to be held accountable. We're talking about verdicts totaling nearly $3 billion, including a record-breaking $1.5 billion award to a single victim just this week. These aren't workplace exposure cases. It's mothers, grandmothers, everyday consumers who trusted the iconic product and ended up with mesothelioma or ovarian cancer. And juries have agreed that Johnson & Johnson is responsible. Hi, I'm Terri Oppenheimer. I've been writing about mesothelioma and asbestos for the website mesothelioma.net for over a decade. And today, I want to walk you through these landmark verdicts and what they mean for the tens of thousands of victims who are still waiting for justice and others who haven't been diagnosed yet. Let's start with the biggest verdict, $1.5 billion. Earlier this week, a Baltimore jury awarded that record-breaking sum to Sherry Kraft, a 54-year-old mother of 5 who was diagnosed with peritoneal mesothelioma in January 2024. She's the founder and CEO of a nonprofit that supports children and families. She had used Johnson & Johnson's baby powder every single day of her life from 1971 through 2024, using it all over her body after every bath and shower. The jury heard extensive testimony about asbestos contamination in talc and the role that contaminated talc plays in causing mesothelioma. After closing arguments, it took them just one day of deliberations to decide that Johnson & Johnson had been negligent in failing to warn Mrs. Kraft about the dangers of their products. The $1.5 billion award includes nearly $60 million in compensatory damages and $1 billion in punitive damages against Johnson & Johnson, plus an additional $500 million against the company's subsidiary, Pecos River Talc. It's thought to be the largest sum ever awarded to a single plaintiff in a case against Johnson & Johnson. And amazingly, just a week earlier, another jury in Minnesota ordered Johnson & Johnson to pay $65.5 million to Anna Jean Houghton Carley, a 37-year-old mother of 3, diagnosed with pleural mesothelioma. After a 13-day trial, the jury awarded what's believed to be the largest asbestos-related verdict in Minnesota history. Mrs. Carley had filed her lawsuit in March, just this past March, after being diagnosed a little bit earlier. The jury heard testimony that Johnson & Johnson sold and marketed talc-based products despite knowing the powder could be contaminated with asbestos. Her family had never been warned about these dangers while using the product on her during her childhood. None of us were alerted to the danger. And these aren't isolated cases. In December, a Los Angeles jury awarded $40 million to 2 women with ovarian cancer. Monica Kent received $18 million, and Deborah Schultz and her husband received $22 million. That jury heard 4 weeks of testimony, including from a former FDA commissioner who testified that Johnson & Johnson had been aware of the link between asbestos in mined talc and cancer since the 1970s, but had concealed this information for decades. I'm going to take a little break. I just want to remind everyone, if you're finding this information helpful, please hit the like and subscribe buttons below. It really helps us get our videos seen by as many people as possible. And if there's a topic you'd like to see covered or a question you'd like answered in a future video, let me know in the comment section below. Now, let me tell you about 2 more important verdicts that display the pattern of jury decisions against Johnson & Johnson that's developing. In October, a Florida jury awarded $20 million to the family of Dr. Alberto Casaretto Sr., a highly respected nephrologist who'd been a member of Florida's first kidney transplant team. He had used Johnson & Johnson's baby powder after every shower and bath in his native Argentina. and he continued doing so after he immigrated to Florida in 1969. He died in 2017 of mesothelioma. He was 79. After 7 weeks of testimony, the jury agreed that asbestos in Johnson & Johnson's talc products led to his death. And what made Dr. Casaretto's case particularly compelling was that he'd had no other asbestos exposure. Johnson & Johnson's defense often points to other potential sources of asbestos exposure, but in this case there weren't any. Despite the FDA having detected asbestos in Johnson & Johnson's baby powder in 2019, the company continues to insist in court that its product contained no asbestos. Finally, there was a nearly $1 billion verdict in October. A Los Angeles jury ordered the company to pay $966 million to the family of an 88-year-old woman who died of mesothelioma. She'd been the wife of a pastor. She'd used their baby powder throughout her life. It took the jury just 2 days before they handed down a verdict that included $6 million for the family's emotional distress, $10 million in non-economic damages, and $950 million in punitive damages against Johnson & Johnson. Now, here's what's important to understand about all these verdicts. They represent a fundamental shift in how mesothelioma cases are being viewed. Traditionally, mesothelioma has been associated with occupational exposure to asbestos. Shipyards, construction sites, factories, that's where workers were exposed, on the job. But tens of thousands of victims of mesothelioma and ovarian cancer believe that asbestos-contaminated cosmetic talc is responsible for their illnesses, and juries are agreeing with them. There are currently more than 67,000 mesothelioma and ovarian cancer plaintiffs in the United States who have claims pending against Johnson & Johnson, and another 3,000 in the United Kingdom recently filed similar actions. 67,000 people. These cases have only recently begun moving forward after Johnson & Johnson's repeated attempts to use bankruptcy filings to avoid liability. The company had pursued a controversial strategy known as a Texas two-step. They created a new entity, assigned all of their asbestos liabilities to that new company, and then had the new company file for bankruptcy protection, as though they were separate. This strategy paused all litigation, but after 3 attempts in 3 different states, bankruptcy courts had rejected all of these filings because of Johnson & Johnson's significant financial holdings. Civil lawsuits are now allowed to proceed, and as we're seeing, juries are delivering massive verdicts. Just so you know, Johnson & Johnson stopped selling talc-based baby powder in the United States in 2020, and they discontinued global sales of the product in 2023. They switched to a cornstarch base. Still, they insist that the product was always safe. They're also appealing all of these verdicts. But what do these verdicts mean? They mean that juries across America, in California, Florida, Minnesota, Maryland, are looking at the evidence and reaching the same conclusion. Johnson & Johnson knew or should have known about the risks of asbestos contamination in their talc products. They failed to warn consumers, and now they're being held accountable. These verdicts are about more than money. They're about truth and accountability. They're about companies prioritizing profits over people's safety. And they're about victims finally having their day in court after waiting years for justice. If you or someone you love has been diagnosed with mesothelioma, ovarian cancer, or asbestos-related lung cancer, and you think contaminated talc may have played a role, you have legal options. Visit mesothelioma.net and fill out our forms for a free information packet with medical and legal information. You can also call us at 1-800-692-8608 or use our live chat feature on the website. You can speak directly to one of our patient advocates. As for me, remember to post any questions you have below, and I'll see you next time.